Welcome, welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. OMG, it's an incredible evening. We have something wonderful, a wonderful webinar that is scheduled for you all tonight. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with the expert, right? So, I bring the heat, I bring the tea, I bring all of the amazing people with wonderful information to share to help you create wealth in your life, right? So, who am I? I am the Jackie Jackson. I'm a real estate coach and investor, specializing in tax deed foreclosures. But tonight, we are not talking about tax deeds, right? We're talking about mortgage foreclosures with none other than my friend, my colleague, one of the best real estate attorneys I know on the planet, Charles Castellan, right? Charles. And I'm so excited to have Charles because I've worked with Charles before on many of my deals in the past. And, the cool thing about Charles is that he's been in the business of real estate for a really, really long time. And not only is he real estate investor friendly, right? He has so much knowledge and so much experience with real estate in general. I don't think there's ever a time, Charles, that I've called and asked you a question about real estate and you didn't have an answer for me.
Well, if I don't have a ready answer, I'll make one up.
I would never know.
Okay.
But I'm actually gonna just share a little bit about you, Charles. So try not to blush, okay?
All
so
right.
some really cool things about you. So Charles has been a practicing attorney since 1992. All right, licensed in the state of Florida and federal courts of Florida and New York. He's also an investor, an entrepreneur himself, a public speaker, an author, and a thought leader, right? So following 2008, the economic collapse, we all know what that is, right? The real estate bubble. And as a result of the foreclosure crisis, Charles has helped hundreds of distressed owners, whether it is a property owner that has their property as their primary residence or a distressed real estate investor who had properties during that period of time and experienced a foreclosure as well too. So he defends property owners for their foreclosure cases, and he also negotiates short sales and loan modifications as well as resolutions, right? So Charles's primary expertise is in real estate and works mainly with investors. Thank goodness, we need you, in a wide variety of transactions and lawsuits. So thank you so much, Charles, for being here this evening with the Jackie Jackson community, because we need you. We need to understand what you know.
Well, thank you for having me, Jackie. It's a thrill to be here. I've been looking forward to an opportunity to appear in a webinar with you for quite a while, and I'm glad we could bring the message about the foreclosure mind to your community.
Yes, absolutely. So, tax deed foreclosures and mortgage foreclosures, I like to kind of describe them as like cousins, because they're in the same family, but they're definitely from two different trees, right? Two different family trees, right? Two different branches, I should say rather. Would you agree?
Yeah, actually, they are very similar. I mean, they both involve distressed homeowner situations that lead to a sale. One of the main differences is, at least with the program that I'm promoting and we're going to talk about tonight, is you have an alternative to going to the court auction. Like you teach investors to go to the tax deed sales run by the court. The alternative is to deal directly with the homeowner. And there's great advantages to that, especially when you cut out the competition of everybody else bidding at the court sale.
Absolutely. So with the mortgage foreclosure, it's a little bit unique. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, with the mortgage foreclosure, we still have those options, or you could go bid at the steps, courthouse steps, as they say. But the opportunity that I'm promoting most here is to find distressed homeowners. And I want to point out that it's the homeowner that's in distress, not the property. And I want to get your community thinking, and even with that kind of jargon, that kind of terminology, it's important because the cornerstone of this program is to have empathy and to understand what these distressed homeowners are going through so you could build that trust and rapport, make a relationship with them, and get to the point where they want to sell to you. And in some cases, they'll even be willing to sell to you for a lower price because of that relationship and how you've worked with them to help them in a win-win deal, than the next guy coming down the pipe who may offer more, but they can't trust.
That is so good. That's really, really good because no matter, what our goals are as entrepreneurs, right? Because that's what we are here. Everyone who's on this webinar this evening, either they are existing entrepreneurs or they are aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they are intending to have real estate be their product, right? That's the go-to business model that they're considering. However, when it comes to real estate or any business or industry for that matter, it is people that run your business. It's people who are your customers, who are your clients. And who your customers are in our business as investors are those property owners, right? So having empathy in communicating with them is really, really important because there's a specific way of how you build rapport and trust. So you mentioned that a moment ago. Can you share a little bit more, please?
Yeah, well, the elements of this program are really two broad pillars here. Is one is the foreclosure mind, is understanding the mindset of the distressed homeowner, and the other side is understanding the legal system and how it affects the particular property you may be pursuing, trying to make a deal on, because whether it's in the early stages of foreclosure or the later stages, other facts such as are there other liens on the property which have to get paid off at the closing table. So there's a sort of right brain, left brain kind of thing going on here where you need to understand like the technical legal side, but more than anything, it's the human side. And you're absolutely right. I mean, in your Tax Deed Genius program, I'm sure you stress throughout the program how everything's a people business, and it's all about the relationships in your life that build better lives and businesses, and that's what I'm striving to do. So, with distressed homeowners, first thing to understand is that you know how I know you're a fan of Stephen Covey, as I am, with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You know, one of his nuggets is before you seek to be understood, you need to understand. And when you're going into a conversation with a distressed homeowner to discuss the possibility of buying their home, you need to understand where they came from. And that's that old metaphor of the iceberg. You see what's over the surface, but what led up to that moment? And what led up to that moment is most likely a bad event, such as a death, unemployment, business failure, divorce, medical crisis, knowing that medical bills are the #1 cause of bankruptcy in the United States. And that's all the baggage that they're carrying with them when you're approaching them. And if you're not ready to deal with them in an empathetic, compassionate way and just listen, remember you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that ratio. That's where you start to build that relationship, that trust and rapport, where you can reach a win-win deal. And if you can't make a win-win deal, my advice is to part as friends, and maybe you'll get a call later, you get a referral. There's always a positive thing to come out of that.
Absolutely. I remember when I first started in real estate investing, my first deal, as I share with everyone my story, I lost a lot of money on my first deal because I didn't have a coach, I didn't have a mentor, and I was going it alone. And I really didn't know what I didn't know. So that was my own ignorance. I call it the most expensive PhD on what not to do, right?
Yeah, that's tuition.
Yes, and it's been one of those like a graceful situation for me, because that was the catalyst for me to learn new skills, which has contributed to my success as an investor. And the skill that I really stand on the most is the communication skills, having that empathy, being able to connect with the other human being and just understanding what their situation is, and then providing a solution that is the answer to their prayers, because it really is all about them. We hear all the time, what's in it for me? But when you're dealing with individuals that have defaulted on their mortgage, a property that they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in, they never intended to default, right? So there's something grossly wrong at that time. And you have to just kind of acknowledge the elephant in the room and provide them with the respect of just listening to the story of what happened. Would you agree?
Yeah, and you're going in as a problem solver. That's exactly what you're doing. And, no matter what business you're in, real estate or anything, if your mission in life and your goal is to make money, you may succeed in the short term, but you're not going to enjoy long-term sustained success. But if your goal is to help people solve their problems with your product or service, then you will enjoy success and money will flow. That's the byproduct of solving problems. And that's the funny thing, is not only is it the right thing to do, but it's actually more profitable in the long run as well.
Very, very true. I remember when I used to send out my marketing letters to notices of default, right? So the notice of default is a document or a lis pendens in some states that is filed by the mortgage company when the property owner has defaulted, right? That's the intention of, starting this whole pre-foreclosure foreclosure process. That's like the beginning stages, right?
It's a public record.
It is a public record. That's
Right.
how I used to find them, because it was
Yeah.
public records. Yeah. And I would call and I would, a lot of times there's shame that's involved in that conversation because they're embarrassed. Sometimes their family doesn't even know that they're behind or
Right.
in foreclosure or experiencing any type of financial distress. Now, you mentioned that that you have helped property owners, like hundreds of them, right? Dare I even say thousands. So when you initiate that conversation or you are assisting, what's the most important aspect of the conversation in order to build trust in a short period of time so you can work with them?
Well, as I said earlier, I think, listening and finding the pain points. I'm so excited about this event, and I know we're going to chat about the upcoming event and all the presenters, including you, who are going to be there talking about their expertise. But one of my favorite people is Eric Schulman, who is an expert on sales, and he has a very effective, honest sales program. It's not the stereotypical, always be closing kind of thing. His ABC is always be curious, keep asking questions, ask questions, find out what their issues are, what are their pain points, and find ways to address those pain points and solve their problem. So, listening is the key, and uncovering what got them in that situation. And you mentioned shame and some of these emotional factors in play. That's what you're up against, because they can't run and they can't hide. Once that foreclosure gets filed, is that lis pendens is how everybody is trying to beat a path to their door. Investors, realtors, attorneys, everybody looking to do business with them. And unfortunately, it's like the shark feeding frenzy. And when you approach them, you got to be mindful of the fact that they've probably got a stack of letters, door knockers, phone calls, texts. Technology is such that privacy has eroded, and nobody can hide if they want to find you. And so, how are you going to stand apart? What's going to be your messaging? And it's funny, in the webinar, I have a free webinar that your viewers could go on foreclosuremind.com and download a free 90-minute webinar, which is a slice of the full day event. And in that webinar, and I put on the website, this is not the full day event, because it's just like the Russian dolls. It's like the event is an expansion of the free webinar. But in that webinar and the full day program, I'm going to share an example from Target. The retailer Target, some years ago, they figured out an algorithm to determine which of their shoppers were pregnant with a high degree of accuracy based on their shopping patterns. And I use them as an example is that Target had a wonderful opportunity to sell baby related products to many consumers and make a ton of money, but they had a big problem is how do you market to them without creeping them out by the fact that Target knows they're pregnant, right? So
exactly, that would be kind of creepy.
Right. So, and we talk about that example, and I make a suggestion is when you're doing outbound marketing, trying to reach out to homeowners that you might find through court records or these various databases, maybe you don't lead with knowledge that they're in foreclosure. I was about to say that they're pregnant, but you don't lead with knowledge that they're in foreclosure because everybody else is doing that. And they can't hide from it. So maybe you just lead with a statement about how you're an investor and you're a problem solver, and let them avoid that foreclosure accusation this one time that everybody else is hitting them with.
Oh man, now if that right there is not a tip of the lifetime, that's incredible, because most investors that I know, most people, even the best gurus and experts, they bring up the issue first, right? Which is kind of like a slap in the face to the property owner. And they just feel so like remorse. It's a reminder that they're not doing well in life. There's a reminder of their situation. So leading with something like a solution is much, much better in building rapport than it is with leading with the problem. So just hold 1 second for me, Charles. I want to reiterate to our attendees on the webinar that we are absolutely live. We are so live right now. So the chat is enabled. I just want to make sure that everyone, is here, and we acknowledge and just, honor your time. Just put a 1 in the chat for me if you are enjoying this conversation with Charles and I. Let me see all your 1s. Let me see the 1s in the chat. If you're enjoying this conversation and you're getting value here. Yes. Julio says yes. Pao, Lee, Tunde, yes. I love it. Thank you so much for participating with us, being here. Elmore says yes, we love it. Thank you so much for being here. We're honoring your time and just recognizing that you could be anywhere. But you chose to share an hour or so with myself and Charles, and we are definitely going to be providing you with value for your time in exchange for your time. So thank you again for that. So everyone here wants to know like the major difference in the process, and I can fill in on the tax deed foreclosure side, but on the mortgage foreclosure side, it seems like it's like a mystery to some extent, right? So I know you spoke about the human nature side of it, which is communicating with the property owner that's in foreclosure, but the technical side of that process, like how long do they really have once they're in that status? And I know it may vary by state, from state to state, but can you share and enlighten us, please, Charles?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it does vary from state to state, especially, and that reminds me of how you do have a national community, and that you teach tax deed systems in all 50 states, which is wildly impressive. So my focus is Florida. Maybe I'll have a national reach at some point, but right now it's in Florida. And the thing to know about Florida is that it's a judicial state. So we have 2 categories. We have judicial and non-judicial. And the difference is, in a judicial state like Florida, there's a whole legal proceeding. There's a lawsuit filed. Other states, I know neighboring state of Georgia has a non-judicial process where it's much easier and quicker to complete a foreclosure. So fortunately for the homeowners and the investors who are looking to make a deal with them, there's going to be time to work, but how much time varies greatly. Back in the Wild West days of the foreclosure crisis, when I learned this business, I was fighting tooth and nail and dragging out these cases for their benefit. And it wasn't even that hard to do because the whole system, the whole legal system was in shambles. I mean, it was overwhelmed. So sometimes they could last years. And I've had cases go on as long as, I think, 7 or 8 years was my record. But this next wave, if you will, or uptick of foreclosures, which I'm expecting, is not going to resemble the aftermath of 2008 for a number of reasons. And one of the main reasons is there's going to be equity in these properties, a lot more than it was last time. If your listeners or your viewers are aware, short sales are when the property is not worth the mortgage balance owed. In this case, I think there's going to be equity, and that's the opportunity to buy and help them put some money in their pocket and avoid losing their home. So process is they get served papers. That's where that public record is created. The lis pendens is filed. And unless there's an intervening event, unless you do something to stop that foreclosure from getting to the ultimate conclusion, which is the court auction, it will be lost. And during that time is the opportunity to sell it. Sorry about that. I'm working from home. There's the opportunity to sell the property if they act upon it and they don't wallow in denial, where it's such a common thing that they don't face the reality of what they're going through. But the opportunity to sell should be there. Problem that you have is early on, when you have so much time, like the case just got started, the motivation to sell is low, because the first thing to understand about the foreclosure mind is the overwhelming majority of them will try to save the home before they're even ready to think about selling. So in the beginning, you got plenty of time to work a deal before it gets to the ultimate foreclosure sale. But motivation is low. Then on the other end of the spectrum, they could be a week out from the court sale, which is the conclusion of the case, and their motivation is high, but you don't have much time to work. So that's the sliding scale, and you got to find your sweet spot somewhere in there where the seller has the motivation and has reached or the realization that they're not going to save the home and they're ready to deal with it.
So would you say anytime before the final judgment, right? So before the final judgment, that's the time that is most beneficial for real estate investors to, provide a solution to the property owner. And the property owner actually technically, like, they have more options, right? They can sell, they can list it on the MLS, or they can, sell to a cash buyer like you, like me. They have quite a lot of options to avoid the property actually even going to judgment and going to foreclosure. And they can even save their credit, right? I know they've had missed payments, but they don't have to have a foreclosure judgment on their credit if they sell before an actual auction is scheduled and completed.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. A lot of these homeowners are going to be concerned about their credit getting wrecked, and they're going to need to rebuild and move on. When a judgment is entered, just so dive a little bit into the legal weeds here. When a judgment is entered, that's when a court sale is scheduled. A judgment is an order signed by the judge, by the court, saying you owe the lender this amount of money, and unless you pay it before this date, it's going to go to a court sale, and then the whole world can bid on it. So judgment is a crucial point, but the judgment is not quite the end. The judgment is the next to last step, because what happens next is the sale.
Wow. And, when we're calling property owners and you're explaining, what stage their battle is, right? Because they're against a race, a race of time.
Yeah, there is. And that's why when I talk about that right brain, left brain combination, where you need the empathy and the compassion, the understanding, the human element, the technical legal side is understanding things like how much energy and resources are you going to devote to buying a property when the court sale is tomorrow or next week. And now there are ways to stop court sales, ranging from the shady and unethical to completely proper. And we go into that as well. But you got to consider nobody has infinite resources, and time is the most precious, and you got to pick your battles and pick the deals that you want to pursue. So understanding where that case is on the timeline of a foreclosure is a real important skill. And what we teach also is how to actually read a court docket. You could go to every clerk of court in every county in Florida has an online docket where court cases are public records. You type in a case number, type in party names, and it comes up. And to so many, it's like reading Greek. It's like legalese is like, you don't understand if you don't have experience dealing in the legal system, what all these entries in the court record mean. And that's what we do. We're going to do a case study of a real foreclosure case I found that has all kinds of moving parts, and it's a wonderful example, and show the life cycle of that case and understand what happened and how that would affect you if you were considering buying that home.
Oh my gosh, Charles, that is incredible. Like a case study that can be dissected, taken apart,
Yeah.
document by document, documents that are filed by the mortgage company, because they are trying to secure their position because they have their stakeholder in this process, right? They're trying to be paid and get their money back. And then you have also, timeline of documents that need to be filed by the property owner themselves too. And more often than not, the property owner does not file, not because they don't want to, but a lot of times they don't file any documents or a response to their mortgage company's filing because they don't know how, or they just are ignorant in that whole process.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't have real accurate statistics on this, but my instinct tells me that a majority of these borrowers will not file any papers, and most of the time it's based on just this, I guess, feeling of hopelessness. Is like, I didn't pay my mortgage. What do I have to say? But quite often there are legal defenses to raise. And what I want to do is educate the prospective buyers, these investors out there, is without crossing that line of going too far and giving legal advice, you can help them understand the system. You can educate them. And I talk about where you draw the line. And a simple place in my view is if you tell them something that they could look up on their own, objective fact, they could Google, or if they get served court papers, there's sitting in front of them a document called a summons that says you got 20 days to answer. They may not have even read that thing because they're in this daze of overwhelm. So you could certainly explain to them, say, look, you got 20 days to answer. It says right here, if you don't file papers, you lose by default. And that's going to be the fast track to losing that home. Where I think you start crossing the line is when you get into advising them on how to respond. It's like, I think you should argue this. Here's a defense you could raise. They lost the note, things like that. And I think that's crossing the line. So you can be helpful and very effective without getting yourself into trouble, and be very helpful to educate them and help them understand the system, as well as all their solutions to keep the property. Because going back to that left brain side of things, as far as the emotional component is, denial and the desire to keep the home are going to be powerful forces. And go with the flow. Don't fight them, because one of the things the sales trainer is going to talk about is that the only person who can overcome a prospect's objections is the prospect. You're not going to talk them into anything that they don't believe or see for themselves. So if they want to save the home, throw them for a loop. Let's have a conversation about all your strategies to save the home, even though it doesn't help you as the investor buyer. Let's talk about a loan modification, a reinstatement, a forbearance, a refi. And then you're actually trying to help. And the reality is, most of the time they won't succeed in saving the home. So who are they going to turn to at that point?
Right, the person who offered solutions that in their mind was what they wanted, right? You listen to what you listen compassionately to the fact that they wanted to keep the home, and you said, okay, well, I mean, that's always an option. So A, you can bring yourself current. B, you can try to communicate with your mortgage company and ask them to modify your loan. Can we do a forbearance? Do you have to send in, any kind of documentation, maybe your pay stubs or something, for them to redo your loan, or at least lower your payment or put it on the back end of your mortgage so that you can bring yourself current. So, maybe the borrower doesn't know that these options are available to them, and you can encourage them to exhaust all of those opportunities and conversations that they can have with their mortgage company, and you will be there for them in the event that anything changes. Always leave that door open.
Yes, and who else is telling them this? Everybody else in the world is saying, "No, you're not going to keep your home. Let me buy from you, or let me list it for you." Whoever it is, depending on what their game is, what their angle is, but you're going to stand out from the sharks if you approach them and have a conversation in what's best for them. And you know what? If they actually succeed, and you help them through your advice and or suggestions and find a solution to stay the home, and it doesn't help you, that's okay. You know, it'll all come around. You get referrals. You made a friend for life. Every successful investor I know, and I bet you fall in this category too, has a story about someone that they built a relationship with and they helped and did not do business, and then months or even years later they get a call, and something good happens.
My record is 1 year and 2 months. So 14 months later.
Okay,
It really was 14 months later.
so I was right.
Yes, you are correct. I sent a postcard. We had a conversation. They called. It wasn't the right time for them. And they kept the postcard. So when they followed up with me, 1 year and 2 months later, I responded and I asked, I said, "How, what? How are you?" First of all, I didn't know who it was, but
Sure.
they remembered me. But I responded, and they said, "Well, you were different. You stood out, and I kept your postcard, and I threw away all the others. And I'm ready to talk to you. Will you buy my house?" And I was like, "Wow, yeah, I will."
Because and it just proves my point, is like you stood out from the pack,
Yes.
whatever it was that you did.
Whatever it was that I did. So the caveat to that is what is so distinctive about your training. So compared to all the other foreclosure, real estate investor training that's out there, not only are you a licensed professional, you are a real estate attorney, you are investor friendly, but you're also training and educating investors on how best they can approach property owners and how they can position themselves for the highest probability of success. So can you talk a little bit more about your program as well as your event on September 10th?
Yeah, no, and a big part of it too is getting ready to seize the opportunity. Um, you know, we've been talking about the two elements, the pillars of the program, is understanding the mindset, the foreclosure mind, and understanding the legal system. But I also want to put those two foundations in context of what lies ahead. So we all remember what happened in 2008 and the aftermath. And any way you cut it, it was a crisis. And what I want to encourage everyone to consider is what opportunities are coming up next, because I love telling the story of my friend Ernesto, wildly successful investor who seized the moment in the aftermath of 2008, and he started buying up distressed homes, or from distressed homeowners, buying up foreclosure properties, most of them short sales. And now, last time I talked to him, he was sitting on about 60 cash flowing properties all these years later. And that is just a great example of seizing the opportunity. Now, what lies ahead? I'm not predicting gloom and doom, and I'm not suggesting another global meltdown like 2008. But here are two things I'm seeing. I am the canary in the legal coal mine. I'm seeing trends that are coming up. One of the things I'm seeing is there were a lot of mortgages, a lot of second mortgages that defaulted after 2008 at the bottom of the market, and especially second mortgages, when if you have a second priority mortgage like a HELOC, equity line, or a second mortgage, you're standing behind whoever has the lender with the first mortgage. So many of those second mortgages just sold them pennies on the dollar to investors when they were at the bottom. They were like junk bonds. They were non-performing second mortgages, and these investors came up and they bought them for a song. And what they do with them? Well, they sat on them. They put them in like putting a safe, like a savings bond from grandma. They just put them away and they waited. And what did they wait for? They waited for the equity in the market to come back. So now that we have the values back up all these years later, a decade or so later, they are foreclosing. They're emerging like Godzilla from the ocean. And they are foreclosing on these people because there's enough equity to cover the first and second mortgage. So that's creating opportunities. The other thing I'm seeing is much more recent. Remember the COVID pandemic of 2020, which we're pretty much still living through right now. The forbearance plans, the lenders gave relief. Forbearance was deferred payments. And this wasn't payment forgiveness. This was payment deferment. This was kicking the can down the road. And what I'm seeing, and I have clients right now who have servicing companies and lenders coming to them with their handout saying, remember those 18 months worth of deferred payments? We'd like it right now. And, they can't come up with the front rent, much less the back rent. So they're foreclosing as well. So I don't want to oversell this as we have the next crisis on our hands, the next global meltdown, recession, mother of all recessions, but there will be a correction. Interest rates are rising, as we've seen. Market is cooling. Property values aren't as sustained. And if we go into a recession, we're going to see unemployment and more people, higher unemployment, more people unable to pay their mortgage. So think about the mind, the legal system, and the opportunity, because we're looking at another historical turning point where the opportunities will be there.
Oh, I completely agree. No one has a crystal ball where they're predicting the future, but trends, trends are definitely, cyclic, if you will. So, you can just read what's happening in the market. And the points, to your point, Charles, not only are those second lien holders now enforcing the collection action, which is their right to do, they now have equity. So before they wouldn't foreclose because, they wouldn't get anything, but now they're able to recoup the total balance plus the interest that has been the unpaid balance plus the interest that's been accruing this whole time. And then the first mortgage gets to be satisfied. So they don't have to be in conflict with that either. And everybody, the investors are getting what they're looking for. And then we have the pandemic that really threw a monkey wrench into a lot of borrowers' situation, because you're correct. Forbearance is not forgiveness. That is two different words with two different meanings. And many people took advantage, many borrowers took advantage of the ability, because they had it, right? That's what the government said, that they had their, an option to put their loan into forbearance and not make any payments. But what a lot of borrowers didn't do is set aside those mortgage payments, those future mortgage payments that they were not paying, so that when their forbearance expired, they would at least have the money to go pay it. Now, I get it. Some people were unemployed, or they may have been furloughed, or their employment status changed. So they may have not had any money to set aside. But that doesn't change the fact that a lot of the forbearances have expired, and the mortgage company is asking for payment in full, not just pick up where you were. They're asking for the bulk total of all of those months missed payments. I couldn't even imagine what some people are experiencing right now, Charles, where they get like a $20,000 or a $30,000 bill that needs to be paid in the next 30 days. That's crazy.
I mean, what do you think the percentage of Americans nationwide is that has 18 months worth of mortgage payments on hand?
It is very little. I worked my tail off to have that even for myself, and my family. And it's scary to think about the total amount of savings that a lot of people even have today. Most people are like one paycheck away, from a crisis in their life, right? So if there's any anomaly, car breaks down, kid gets sick, or, something unplanned event in their life happens, it literally is a ripple effect that can influence their mortgages payment, their car payments, like everything in their lives, right? So keeping that in mind, with these bulk payments that are now coming due, that's the opportunity that investors like you, like myself, everyone that's on right now has the opportunity to take advantage of and provide solutions for these borrowers, property owners that don't have these monies.
Yeah, and solutions is absolutely the thing that you're providing. It's you're a problem solver. And going back to what we were talking about with the values being what they are, in the short sale world that we saw from like 2009 to just a few years ago, it was a short sale dominated market because the values just weren't there. So what these homeowners were walking away from, if they were fortunate, was some relocation funds, what they called the cash for keys, that the
Mm.
lenders would let them have a few crumbs from the table, because in a short sale, if the lender's getting shorted, the borrower's not walking away with anything as a seller. But in the next wave of whatever is coming around the corner, it's that ability to cash in and collect that equity that is going to make the difference, and they will dust themselves off and fight again. So they're going to be motivated to sell, because if they don't make a deal and it goes to the court auction, they get nothing.
Mm. Nothing.
Nothing. Well, potentially there could be a surplus. And I know you talk about surpluses with tax deeds. Potentially, if somebody overbids, if there's enough equity that an investor comes along and overbids, there is a possibility that homeowner could claim the surplus. Now, if there's other lien holders, like a second mortgage or an HOA that is in arrears, they'll intercept that surplus before the homeowner does. But I would say to the homeowner, what are you, crazy? Is your strategy to hope for a surplus? Or do you want to sell it now and get cash in your hand at the closing table, because you don't know what's going to happen at that court sale?
Absolutely. It's like playing Russian roulette, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, financially. Yeah.
So working with an investor can definitely position the borrower to be more successful, or at least to have more control in the transaction, of at least the outcome of what may happen to themselves, their families, their finances, as well as with the property. So that's something that's absolutely imperative. One moment. You know what? Always when we're like recording, right? I am so sorry. Something decided that it wanted to update in the middle of our webinar.
It always happens.
Always happens. Exactly. We are live. But working with investors, just a quick reminder that when the borrower property owner works with investors, not only do they maintain, some element of control and influence over the outcome of the results of what happened, but they normally typically walk away with more cash in their pocket than if they allowed the property to go to the auction in hopes that there may be a surplus that circles up, around back to them, like enough. The property sells for high enough that it satisfies all of the lien holders, and then they can get the difference. That normally doesn't ever happen. And also, they never come away. I can tell you how many times the surplus, is cheated and absorbed by the county. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's way too risky. And another opportunity, and I know you've done taking over mortgage payments subject to mortgage deals. And when you're dealing one-on-one with a homeowner in distress, there are situations where creative financing is beneficial to them. Sometimes they would be happy to have somebody just take over the mortgage payments, because what's happening after that point? You're getting somebody else to repair your credit for you, taking over your mortgage payments. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a big bundle of cash in their pocket. Some of these homeowners would be glad to take seller financing. Take back a note, because what they need more than anything is an income flow. So creative financing opportunities are there, but that's not available when you go bid at the court sale, because you need a big duffel bag full of money to bid at the court sale and come up with the cash right on the spot, along with bidding against the whole world competing, because online auctions are all the rage in Florida now. You don't even need pants to bid on a foreclosure sale. So you have all the competition. You have to have all this cash to close that deal. But when you're doing one-on-one with the homeowner, that's why I think for most investors, that's the better strategy. Instead of bidding against the world and having to come up with all that money, you get to leverage your resources and you get to make a deal one-on-one with the homeowner that you can help.
Absolutely. So you said two things in there that really tickled me so much. You said duffel bag money. What you know about duffel bag money, Charles? Mm-hmm. That right there is everything. And then number two, You also mentioned that online, yeah, there's a lot of people. Anybody can participate in an online auction because you physically don't have to be present. So you can be anywhere in the world, log in and participate, right? So that
Yes.
really does increase the competition, whether the person is a novice or an experienced investor, they can be a participant in the auction. So communicating and marketing to pre-foreclosures is advantageous. Does it take time? Does it take skill? Does it take patience? Absolutely. You're dealing with real people that have real situations, real issues that are also really emotional and sometimes still very, very attached to the properties and to the property and the memories that they have created in the properties. And they're
Right.
wondering where they're going to go, what's going to happen to them. You know, their kids may have to change schools. These
Yeah.
thoughts are happening, and you really got to be very empathetic and be able to really come up with very good solutions. I remember one time I was doing a deal and a property, the owner, they were in a foreclosure. And what I ended up doing is connecting them with a realtor that would find another property in that area or someplace for them to live that they can go rent, because they were going to get cash back at closing when I purchased property, but they still needed some place to go and make it very seamless. So we worked out our dates where it was like a seamless transition and they weren't displaced and they didn't feel, like they didn't feel exposed as far as, how that process would work from moving from one place to another. So sometimes as investors, we have to go think outside the box and go above and beyond, because that was one of the main reasons that they decided to work with me as opposed to another investor, because I addressed that concern. And that was something that was, very disturbing to them. They wanted to know where they're going to live, who was going to help them, rent a new place and so on like that. So these are things that are very, very important, and you got to keep in mind.
Before you could help solve that problem, you had to ask and you had to listen.
You got to ask and you got to listen. So if you don't know the questions to ask, you definitely need to be present at this amazing event that we're going to be having September 10th. So Charles, can you share a little bit more about September 10th, how people can, get registered and so on? And then I'll share for those who are online with us now, how they can get signed up, as well as a really amazing bonus if they get signed up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. You go to foreclosuremind.com. And I don't know, maybe can you put it up on your screen? See the site?
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen here real quick. I actually put it up. It's in the chat, so maybe some people may already have it. So let me share my screen.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I see foreclosuremind.com on, right. So there, all right. So yeah, so there's the website. You go to foreclosuremind.com, and on the left up here is where you sign up, and you can scroll further down and also purchase tickets and sign up for the event. And it gives you more info about the event. And then it is, as you can see, it's $497, but I know you're going to offer the special Jackie Jackson promo rate in a moment. But that tells you about the event. And if you scroll down further, you see the lineup of speakers. I'm going to be there. My friend Steve Goldhurst is a brilliant investor, talking about the power of the mind and creative financing. Eric Schulman going to be talking about effective sales strategies. Then we have that lady going to be talking about her expertise. And then Gail, and I think it's important, and I really appreciate your participation, because as you said, they're cousins. These are complementary tools for the investors. So I want to add tax deed investing to the mix, and then you're going to be able to enhance the program with that. Gail Gates is going to be talking about finding court records. She runs a court record business for over 30 years, talking about understanding and court records and how to create your outbound campaign to reach out to these people through the public records to contact them and find them. And then finally is our friends with Faceless Marketing, our marketing company. Part of what sets this program apart from others is that I am very emphatic in saying that outbound marketing is not enough, because that's everything everybody else is doing, is all the direct mail, the postcards, the letters, the door knocking. You need inbound too. You don't have to be a Jackie Jackson to build a brand and have a social media presence and a blog and a website and be found. So I believe you need that combination of outbound and inbound, because you want these folks to find you. And here's a gem. Here's something like a free piece of advice that is priceless. Is there's this whole world out there of pre-foreclosure opportunities, people who have fallen behind and have not been served yet, where no public record exists, right? Nobody can find them. There's no database of 30, 60, 90-day mortgage delinquencies. And quite often it'll take a lender servicing company over a year in some instances to file a foreclosure after delinquency. So how do you reach those people in pre-foreclosure who are not being inundated by the competition, who are finding them in court records? You don't find them, they find you by having your presence, by building your brand, your blog, your website, your social media presence, because they're going to be online and they're going to be looking for solutions and they can find you. So nobody else is focusing on this inbound strategy. Everybody's just pushing out the information in a ham-fisted way without empathy, and that's not the way to succeed. So as you can tell, I'm so excited about this program. It's going to be transformative, and I'll ask you to talk about, if you will, the bonus that you're presenting.
Yes, absolutely, Charles. So as you have heard, this is an incredible lineup of experts that are going to be sharing some wonderful information that's going to help you build your business as a real estate investor. I always say more tools on your toolkit will make you even more diverse as an investor. So whether it's tax deeds or mortgage foreclosures, or you want to learn more about creative financing and transactional engineer, these are the types of seminars that you need to come to and attend so that you can be in the room with experts that's going to help you understand what's your next steps in building your business. So for those who are on tonight, of course, the generosity is always flowing whenever you have the Jackie Jackson and her team members. So now, the seminar is normally $497 to attend, and it is well worth it. Like, you have 5 experts, is it 5, 6 of us? Oh my gosh, you have a whole panel of amazing individuals that have probably combined like over 100 years of experience that is going to pour into you and help you build your real estate investing business, right? But because you are on with us tonight and you took time out to share with us tonight, when you enroll and become an attendee at this seminar, the Foreclosure Mind Seminar of 2022, when you enter hashtag Jackson, that's me, the Jackie Jackson, when you enter hashtag Jackson, you will receive $200 off your enrollment to get into, just get your foot, your pinky toe in the door, okay? So $200 off utilizing hashtag Jackson, and you can get into this seminar for only $297. That's absolutely unheard of. So if you haven't registered, you need to run and go do it right now at foreclosuremind.com. Register, become a registered guest attendee, and use the checkout hashtag Jackson to receive $200 in savings. Oh my gosh,
Well,
too generous. Thank you so much.
And I thank you for offering that, Jackie. It's a big bonus. And I want to also talk about, it is a live event. And now, you know, everybody's used to we're on Zoom right now, obviously, these virtual and hybrid events. And I know you have that national following. So I want to tell people who can't make it to Orlando that we're going to offer a live stream option. It's the same price, but you can tune in. So if you're in California and you can't make it into Orlando, you can live stream and all of the same information, the same value, although I think you lose something from not being in the live event, but the bulk of the information will come to you and it'll be very effective live stream. And the other thing is our friends at the Clarion, the host hotel, have offered a special rate, $79 for the room if you do want to travel, and it's across the street from Universal Studios. So you can make a vacation of it. And I would say even the most conservative CPA will bless that as a business deduction if you come stay at the Clarion for this educational business event. $79 room rate. And here is the code when you register. It's LFME for Live Foreclosure Mind Event. LFME when you register at the Clarion, and you could click through on that website to register for a room if you're coming in from out of town. So great room rate, nicely newly renovated hotel, and a wonderful location in right across the street from Universal. So as you can tell, I'm so excited, and just having you there. I mean, I know you're going to add so much value along with our other speakers. So the ROI for this event will be multiple times whatever it is that you pay.
Oh man, listen, you have mindset, right? You got that part, right? Everyone needs that. I can't stress that enough. You can't even talk about it enough, right? But knowing exactly what to say to borrowers that are in foreclosure, that's going to position you to get the deal and build that trust, that right there is priceless. Then you're going to have an expert share with you how to go through court records. What are you looking for when you're looking in public records? That's Gail Gates. Like, she is so phenomenal in what she does in her database and how she helps investors understand what they're looking for. Then you have me, yours truly, that is sharing, the differences between the mortgage foreclosure and a tax deed or real estate delinquent tax foreclosure. There are some comparative differences, so people just need to understand, because sometimes you'll have a property owner that actually is in default for both. So what
that happens a lot. Oh yeah,
that happens often, right? So you also have the sales professional, so all of these aspects together, it completes the pie or completes the puzzle for a successful business model when it comes on to real estate investing. And to get this kind of information for $200 off, even at $497 is an absolute steal. And then to have that additional discount is absolutely incredible. And again, we are live.
and lunch is included.
And lunch is included too. So there it is. And we leaving you. Listen, it just don't get no better. That's my Ebonics right there. It don't get no better than that. For real. Well, it's so incredible that that you took time to meet with us tonight. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, comments as we wrap up. So we'll take a look at the chat real quick. If anyone has any questions, they can definitely ask them right now in the chat. So whether it's questions about foreclosure, you got an expert, you got a real estate attorney licensed right here in the state of Florida. So if you have a foreclosure question, you could definitely ask it now. If you have a question about the promotional discount or September 10th event here in Orlando, feel free to drop those questions in the chat as well. And I believe the chat is enabled. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, please feel free to do so. So good, so good. So while we have our guests, think about their questions, is there anything else that you'd like to share, Charles? I know we went over a lot. We gave so much information.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of information. I just want to stress that this is so much more than an investment strategy. It's so much more than learning how to buy foreclosures, because when I think of building wealth, what comes to mind is not fancy cars and staying at the Ritz. What comes to mind is freedom. And that is what wealth is all about, the ability to work when you want, how often you want, to spend time with your family, assuming you like your family, and to have better lives and businesses. And all the wealth experts, all the wealthy people, from the Kiyosaki's to Tony Robbins, Warren Buffett, everybody who's done it and teaches it will tell you that the cornerstone of building wealth is acquiring income producing assets. That's the means to the end. That's the tool. It's not an end. That's not the end game. It's to acquire income producing assets so you can build wealth and have a better life. And foreclosure properties are income producing assets. So I want to be mindful of the big picture of where this fits. I'm all about building better lives and businesses, and you're going to be with a community of like-minded people driven for success and better lives. And there's going to be a wonderful energy in the room even before you show up. And then once you get there, it's going to be over the top.
Absolutely. So whether it's in person or virtual, and I'm all for in person. Like I know we're virtual right now, but I miss people. I miss you guys. I miss y'all. Hugging, high-fiving, and just really seeing, people, real people in the room and connecting. So I'm so excited that the event is actually live. And for those who can't physically be present, it's going to be live streamed as well. So that's another secondary option. So yeah, take advantage of this opportunity, of this seminar, because this is a pivotal moment in our history, unprecedented, where we're at the cusp of seeing all of those mortgage forbearances expiring. And there's going to be property owners that are they are in distress, not the property. So amazing, incredible properties that have equity in it that needs to be sold, and it needs to be sold right away. Are you going to be the person that provides that solution to that borrower, that property owner, so that it is a win-win for everybody? The mortgage company gets what they need. The borrower, the property owner, gets payment relief or debt relief. And then you have the opportunity to create wealth in abundance for yourself and experience a life that you have always dreamed of and always saw yourself living with your families. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And it's attainable. This isn't like this pie in the sky stuff. This is theory with execution. And as they say, a vision without execution is a hallucination. And this isn't about hallucinations. This is about getting things done. So we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to learn the techniques, and we're going to learn how to make it happen. And I'm thrilled. I can't wait for the event.
Oh, me too. Execution, implementation. Listen, we're not talking about theory or, this possibilities of what may happen. Charles is talking about actually opening up case files, documents, looking specifically, just like how I do in Tax Deed Genius. I provide case files and documents pulled directly from the courthouse, from the actual clerk of court, and show you exactly what these documents mean. I mean, that's the type of in-depth information that you're going to be receiving. So it's absolutely incredible. Well, Charles, I'm actually looking in the chat right here, and it seems like our attendees are a little bit shy. I don't see any questions that they're asking here, but can you please share how someone can reach you?
Absolutely. Let me put it in the chat myself.
Yes.
So obviously we talked about the Foreclosure Mind. We have a blog on that website as well, and lots of useful information, but I'm going to give you my email and phone number.
And don't y'all be stalking my attorney now, okay? I sent him here as a gift, like a manna from heaven. Y'all don't be stalking my attorney. Charles is my attorney. All right.
I will definitely take calls or respond to emails from all the attendees tonight. And we do have a question here about whether there will be a replay. We are recording, right? You're gonna make the replay of this webinar available?
Yes, absolutely. So we are recording and it just takes us, just a couple of days to put it all together for you guys. But yes, we are recording and there will be a replay for those that are just joining us or some that may have missed the opportunity to be with us live. So we do have one question. Elmer says, can someone with no real estate experience join this event?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Keep in mind, people with varying levels of experience and exposure to real estate investing are going to have different experiences, are going to get different things out of the event. But if you've never done a deal and you don't know anything about investing, you can walk into this event and learn so much, but then the burden's on you to go out there and execute, as we were talking about. So you can learn the foundation and understand what it is you need to do. But I definitely recommend brand new investors go out and get further education and coaching, because what you get from my event is not going to be the end. It's just a starting point. So getting good coaching and mentoring to help you implement what we're going to teach, I think that's going to be the dynamite combination.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, like new investors are my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
And
Clean slate.
yeah, I think so because once you've had a couple of deals under your belt, sometimes you get a little thick in the head and you think you know more than you do. And no real estate transaction is ever the same. Even if you've done 100, millions of them, there's always something new to learn. So being flexible, being open, and just being like malleable is literally the main skill that any person needs to have. Not doing whether you've done deals or not, in order to actually really experience the maximum level of success in this business.
Yeah, well, I've heard it said you can't learn when you're in knowing mode, and as soon as you think that you figured it all out, that's the time to worry, right there.
Very, very true. Let me see if there are any additional questions. I don't see any questions. And thank you, Charles, for sharing your email and your phone number. Oh my gosh, y'all got his phone number, y'all. So his email and his phone number is listed here in the chat, along with the link to foreclosuremind.com and the promotional code to save $200 off of the registration for the event on September 10th. And then I also included the promotion code for the Clariton Hotel. So you can have additional savings there if you are going to travel to Orlando. If you are going to travel to Orlando, you are going to stay. So let's see.
We have a raised hand.
We do have a raised. OMG, let's see what's happening here. Let's see, a raised hand. This is exciting.
Some folks aren't seeing the details here.
They're not seeing the details. Focus. Post to everyone panelists can chat with. Well, let's see what's going on here. I am gonna try to correct that then. Focus. Anyway, like I said, we are live. So sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to copy here and then I'm going to put it back in the chat. So hopefully everyone can see it now. And let's see here. I'm sharing with all attendees. So that information should be able to be copied and saved by all. So
yeah, I see it in the chat box.
Do you? Okay, good. Because I was seeing it before, but yeah, thank you for sharing that it wasn't being seen by all. That's important. That's the reason why we're sharing it. So I reshared all of the information that we want, you need to have, right? So you need to have the registration website, you need to have the promotional code, and you need to have Charles's email, and you need to have Charles's phone number. Okay.
Yeah. And also, I certainly want to encourage everybody to sign up for the live event. But if you want to check out a preview of the live event, don't forget on that homepage, foreclosuremind.com homepage, you could also register to get a link for the on-demand 90-minute webinar, which is going to give you a nice preview of my lessons during the live event. So that's a bonus right there. So lots of information to absorb.
Yes, yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, Charles, thank you so much. We're going to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time, right? So we're just so grateful to have you share the wealth of knowledge that you have shared with us tonight in the community. And we just really appreciate you and appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. So September 10th, you can meet Charles live in person right here in Orlando by going to foreclosuremind.com and registering. And then you can also use hashtag Jackson to have an additional savings off of your registration fee and just benefit off of that, because we believe in abundance and sharing and wanting to make as many people, make the opportunity accessible to as many people as possible. So thank you everyone for joining. And yes, there will be a replay probably in a couple of days or so. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your brother, tell your kids, tell everybody. All of that, all of the above. Any last words for you, Charles?
No, thank you so much, Jackie. I appreciate the opportunity to get in front of your people. And you've built such a great thing through Tax Deeds Genius. You've helped so many build better lives and businesses, and I'm just following your lead.
Oh, thank you, Charles. So Malik says thank you. Elmer says thank you. Tim, they say thank you. We thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.